Okay, all right, everybody. Welcome to the May edition of Science on Tap. Today we have WISE's own Kelley Voss. She's a PhD student at UC Santa Cruz. And a little background on Kelley is that first she wanted to be a French teacher, but her time at Sacramento City College convinced her that she wanted to be a marine biologist instead. And then from there, she transferred to CSU Long Beach and graduated in 2013. And then from there, she moved to Alaska, where she got a master's in environmental science in 2016. And she's been working on her PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology for the last 5 years, which means she's officially been a octopus researcher for the last 8 years. And she's been interested in octopuses back in community college when she realized she had never seen one in real life. And since then, it's been her mission to learn everything she possibly can about their fascinating morphology and behavior. And Kelley says that her best description of an octopus is it is a brain with 8 detachable tongue brains wrapped in an eyeball with 2 cameras on top. And Kelley would love you to ask her more on what that means. And with that, please take it away, Kelley.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Megan. Again, I'm Kelley Voss, and I'm here to talk about retaliatory behaviors in the California two-spot octopus. That's kind of my, one of my chapters, one of the projects that I have going on in the grander scheme of my PhD work. But like I said, like Megan said, I've been working on octopuses for over 8 years, and I would really be happy to have this be more of a conversation than a formal presentation because not everybody knows a ton about octopuses, and so I'm really excited to share with you and answer any questions that you have like in the moment while we're talking about it. So I've got, you can unmute yourself, or I've got the chat pulled up and I can keep an eye on that. I'm pretty good at that now after a year of Zoom teaching. So yeah, I will get started, and as questions come up, please shout it out, type it in the chat, let me know, and we can have a fun little conversation about octopus stuff. So I will say before I get started, the first thing when I have a conversation about octopuses with a new person tends to be, what is the plural of octopus? You know, like, is it octopuses, octopi? Scientists in scientific literature, we use octopuses. But if you really want to make the best quality pun, it's probably going to be octopi. But if you want to be super pedantic, technically octopus is a Greek root word, so you might want to use octopodes. That's my personal favorite, but for the purposes of this talk and for my research, I tend to use octopuses, so not octopi. And octopuses are really interesting because we don't know that much about them, even though they're so fundamentally important in a lot of, well, really most marine systems, but the ones that I study tend to live in rocky reefs. So there's all kinds of animals that eat octopuses, so like flatfishes, marine mammals, moray eels, which we'll talk about today, sarcastic fringe head, those nightmare fish that flare their mouths open really far, and even octopuses are also cannibals, so they'll eat each other. In turn, octopuses eat all kinds of gastropods, bivalves, crabs, snails, abalone. I have an octopus and abalone expert in the room right now. All kinds of marine invertebrates. They are carnivores, though they don't eat like algae, but they eat all the things that eat algae, basically. So they have a really important node in this food web, and the difficult thing about studying them, as some experts may tell you, is because they're so good at hiding, it's very hard to study what's going on with the population. So we've had to be pretty creative about how we study the ecology, kind of the life of octopuses. The species that I've worked with the longest, that I focused on the most, and that we're talking about today, is the California two-spot octopus. There's 2 two-spotted octopuses, but this is kind of the bigger species of the 2. It's called two spot because it has this eye spot here, and I've blown it up right here. So they have these beautiful blue circles, one on each side of its head, so two spot. They live really close to shore. We usually catch them in about 30 feet of water, where they live in Southern California. They range from like Point Conception, so like kind of mid California, down through Mexico, and also in the Channel Islands. So the majority of my work is on Catalina Island. Like I said, they eat crustaceans, bivalves, gastropods. They're cannibals, eat other octopuses. And octopuses have 8 arms, not tentacles, arms, that they can lose and regrow. And like, what is an arm as opposed to a tentacle? Like, what's that about? When I say an arm, what I mean is one multifunctional appendage, so one arm or one limb that does a bunch of things. It's not just specialized for one task. And in octopuses, those arms have suckers from the mouth all the way to the very tip of the arm in all of those arms, except in males. When I'm looking at an octopus and trying to distinguish between arms, there's kind of a numbering system, and I've given you a schematic here. So this is my real octopus. You can see kind of its eyes here and its mantle, basically a sac full of organs. And then all of its arms are kind of attached, and the suckers are all on the underside and kind of meet around the mouth. And so the numbering system is based on looking at them from above like this. So they're paired into 4 pairs on a left side and a right side. So this arm is the first one on the left, L1. And the special one that we want to look for in these octopuses is R3, so the third arm on the right. In females, those suckers go all the way to the tip. They look like just all of the other arms. But in males, they kind of have this kind of scoop or a spoon-shaped organ called a hectocotylus, and males use that to reach into their head. So like there's an opening kind of underneath on the bottom side of this sac, and they can reach into their head and grab a packet of sperm and pull it out and stick it inside the female's head into her mantle to fertilize her eggs. And there's all kinds of implications with that, like the female can pull it back out and just toss it away, like, because it's in a packet, right? So they can just be like, ooh, thanks, no, sorry, I don't, thanks. Or, and like, this is also how like multiple fathers can be in one clutch of eggs. So if they get multiple sperm packets, that kind of cluster of babies can be half siblings. They're not all full siblings. But the thing that I care about is the fact that this arm is special in some octopuses, because that can have implications for maybe treating that arm differently or protecting that arm a little bit more. And we'll see kind of how that plays out in my, like in what I found in my research so far. In the chat, does less suction cups on the males make general take? So they're missing so little of their suckers on that arm. Like, it's really just the very tip. Even in giant Pacific octopus, that's a pretty big hectocotylus. Like, if the arm is 10 feet long, the hectocotylus is still maybe only a foot. So it's really just a small percentage of the whole length of the arm, so they can still functionally use it. So octopuses have a bunch of arms. They're using them in a variety of ways. So this is kind of why an octopus might actually lose an arm. If they spend all their time tucked up with, like, in a little cozy ball, maybe they probably wouldn't lose an arm easily that way. But they'll start to, oh no, this is not working. Okay, there we go. So they use their arms for a variety of tasks. So they will reach out of their dens and explore. They use their arms for locomotion. This is what makes them an arm. It's a multifunction appendage. They can do a variety of tasks with the same thing. Some special octopuses are mimic octopuses. This one is hiding in a hole and using 2 arms to mimic a sea snake. It's even done the banding, the stripes on that snake. And when they lose those arms, they actually can regrow them. So they're not just gone forever. It's a necessary sacrifice at the time, but if it happens early enough in their life, they can fully regrow that arm. So you'll see this octopus, this is a museum specimen, has these huge long arms, and then you see these silly little teeny tiny, like centimeter long projections of these little arm tips. Octopus arms actually, if it gets cut off, like cut off and flat, it grows a tiny little hair like at the very top of the arm, and it starts from the tip and grows out. So you'll have like this big arm with a little tiny silly like hair on the end. It always cracks me up. So this is what I'm looking for when I'm looking at injuries and confirming those injuries, because that means the arm was previously bitten off and has started to grow back when I'm looking at museum specimens. So kind of the reason why I'm looking at all of this stuff is that the loss of a limb can be pretty traumatic for any animal, any person, right? So I'm really curious to know if losing these arms is like a really big deal, or if it's more like our friend from Monty Python here and it's just a flesh wound. Not really sure. So that's why I'm exploring the topic that I am. So I've got 4 different projects that I've been cooking for my PhD. My first question that I've been asking is, which arms might octopuses commonly lose? So they've got 8 arms, but there's kind of some directionality, right? Like they're a bilaterally symmetrical animal, so you can split them down the middle, and there's a left and a right. And there's kind of a front and a back, but are are they kind of just randomly grabbing with their arms, or is there a specific arm that they're actually losing more frequently or more severely? And my paper actually just got published this week, so I'm really excited about that. I did find that, so this is open access. You can go find this. You can go Google Kelley Voss zoology octopus and find my paper and read it. You'll probably recognize that figure of the octopus. But basically the highlights of what I found in that study was that octopuses are losing between 1 and 7 arms. So like I saw injuries on 7 of 8 arms one time, which is really, that's a lot. That's a lot to see. It's usually around 1 or 2. And an average of about a third of the arm length was lost. I studied 3 different species, and in all 3 of those species, it was about the top third that was lost. And these severe arm injuries, like more frequent arm injuries and more severe arm injuries, so like more of the length of the arm being missing, tended to occur on the left side, so this half, and the front side, so like these 2 arms were getting hit the most. And what is interesting to me is that those 2 arms are opposite of the arm that would be specialized in males. This didn't totally like it wasn't like strikingly different between, or like in all males, but I did see differences between males and females within each species, and I saw differences, and by differences I mean differences in injury patterns between males and females of each species and between the different species. So that it was really cool to be able to put this together, and I found that observing these patterns in museum specimens was really helpful and important. We don't always think of museums as places where you can go do science. Like you see like stuff on display, but museums have just a ton of things in jars and cabinets downstairs. And so I spend a lot of time downstairs at the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco, and Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, and the at Scripps in San Diego, looking at all of these octopuses and trying to figure out where all of these injuries were. I did see a hand go up, and I didn't want to let that go by. Was there a question? Okay. I also see a question in the chat. Do they tend to lose more than one arm at a time? It's the average is between 1 and 2. So like I tended to see an octopus with like one missing and then regrowing arm. Sometimes it would be interesting because you'd see, like, I'll show you what I envision this looking like. I'd see an octopus with an arm missing like this, this, and this. So it's like something took a diagonal bite out of all of the arms together. Um, so I don't know, like the things that I saw were really interesting, but they're kind of hard to quantify. Um, but yeah, a lot of it was just like maybe like this little part was missing, but like most of the rest of it was still there. And it's usually, like I said, in these kind of front arms. Okay, let's keep checking. So my second project, the thing that I'm writing up right now, is thinking about how we quantify the arm injuries octopuses have. I've kind of talked about the number of arms that are missing. So like how many out of 8 have a big chunk missing out of them. This is kind of what it looks like when it's started to regrow and it's kind of in the middle of regrowing. This is the original arm here with these big suckers. But you can kind of see this huge stair step right in the middle of the arm, and then it's a little bit smaller. So it started regrowing here and then kind of elongated from this original arm stump, basically. But you can imagine, like, we care about the number of arms that are missing. We care about how much of one arm has gone missing, but we can also care about how much flesh has gone missing. So octopuses don't die well, not me, I don't swim down there, but when a moray, for instance, when a predator pulls an octopus's arm off, that octopus doesn't necessarily die. But when we think about animals being preyed on, we usually think about that in numbers and the number of octopuses that have died and passed their energy on to their predators. But I think that thinking about octopus arm injuries more like plants, so how much volume of leaves has been eaten, is probably going to be more useful in thinking about the trophic ecology. So how the different predators like how different predators get energy from their prey and how that moves through the food web. I think that would be more useful. And so that's something that I'm working on right now, is describing how we think about octopuses being injured and what are the different applications for that, instead of just thinking about like just a count of arms that are missing or just the amount of arm that is missing. The fourth study, I'm skipping over 3 because that's the main kind of topic tonight, but we'll get back to how octopuses are actually compensating when they lose an arm. That's kind of the thing that I've started and I'm working on right now. But the main thing that we're going to be excited about tonight is how octopuses are using their arms in self-defense. So octopuses come with a lot of different tools in their kind of physical arsenals to defend themselves or protect themselves, really. So we know that octopuses are excellent hiders. Like you can see, this giant Pacific octopus blends really, really well into this shell hash substrate that it's sitting on in my old lab in Alaska. If hiding doesn't work, then an octopus might shoot ink. This is me underwater in Catalina, and an octopus tried to get away from me by trying to confuse me by shooting ink in my face. And the ink is for actually several purposes. It's kind of a smoke screen, like you might imagine, but you can also see kind of some mucus. You can kind of see some stringiness to it, and that's actually decoy. So it looks kind of like an octopus arm, kind of like moving through this cloud, and so it entices a predator to bite that mucus instead of the octopus, who is already like jetted away. So they'll jet this direction and shoot ink in the opposite direction. So they don't hang out in their ink cloud, like that they're already gone. But the problem for the predator, once they get a mouthful of ink, is that those molecules of ink are super sticky. And so they will kind of coat the gills of a fish, and the fish will start to cough and try and swim away. It's very effective in distracting an animal when it's coughing basically, trying to get air. And by the time it's like kind of come back to its senses, that octopus is out of there, it's gone. And another factor that we know about is that octopuses are very good at squeezing through small holes. So this octopus has wedged itself under a rock in another tank in my old lab in Alaska. But you can see that they're very good at just curling themselves up and squishing. They can get through anything that their beak can get through. That's the only hard part, really, in their inflexible part in their body. And even that's kind of a little bit flexible. But if that beak breaks, they're in trouble. So they can only, and also they don't immediately get through. It's kind of hard to squish yourself through. They kind of have to push and pull, but eventually they will get through a small hole if they're determined. So they're good hiders, they're good escapers, but we don't really know what they're doing if they're really cornered or if they're a really aggressive octopus. We don't really have a good quantification of what they're actually doing. And it's not like these behaviors escalate. Like, it's not like they definitely try hiding first and then they ink and then they hide. Like, they kind of do stuff in random orders, because if their behavior became predictable, then a predator could kind of learn and get around it. But since these actions come at random intervals, it helps them better evade someone that's trying to chase them. So you might have seen in the news recently this octopus that attacked that geologist, and I will show you. So it's kind of making itself look big, and then it kind of reaches and slaps out and kind of tries to grab. I'll let you see that one more time just because it's funny. So this is kind of unusual behavior for an octopus, being in the shallows like that and kind of reaching out and grabbing instead of kind of running off and hiding. But unusual behavior, hard to predict. That's a strategy, really, of trying to get away. So this is the kind of thing that you might expect, but we don't really know yet. We've only seen like these accounts, but no one's ever really like studied, all right, if you make an octopus angry, what does it do? So that is what I'm doing. How you study retaliation in a really like controlled and ethical way is you go catch an octopus, you put it in a tank with a predator. That's kind of the necessary but really natural part. Like, they experience this in their daily life regularly. Over 2/3 of the octopuses that I've studied in the wild and in museums have at least one arm that has been bitten off and is regrowing. So this, like, they're built for this. So I do that, but I have to record it because it's only fun until you write it down, and when you write it down, it's science. So in case you need an excuse. Why is my chat window hidden? Interesting. Okay. If I'm not answering your chat, you can raise your hand. My chat window has now disappeared. I don't know why. Sorry. So the underwater process of me going and catching an octopus, this is me in 2019 with my summer intern, Nikita Sridhar, who actually is going to be starting as a PhD student in my department in the fall. Very excited about that. Makes me feel very, very old. So we would go with these dive lights, and we'd just kind of tootle around in maybe like 20 feet of water. They're really shallow, off the coast of Big Fisherman's Cove, Two Harbors area on the north side of Catalina Island, Southern California. And once you kind of find a little hole with a little octopus in it, you'll see the eye, or like little suckers. They're kind of peeking out. We take syringes you can kind of see what I'm doing it there. We have these big syringes, not with like a needle on the end, but just kind of like this to squirt um, a mixture of white vinegar and water. So it's kind of like a stink bomb. Basically, we're making it too smelly in their little hole, and it kind of agitates them and they want to leave. So once they hop out, partner number two kind of grabs it and boops it into a bag, and that's how we collect it. And that's kind of what this looks like. So we've got a little guy that you just kind of boop, gently, kind of, we don't grab it or anything, we just kind of guide it into a bag, and then we take it back to shore in our boat in a bucket so that it can breathe. Ooh. Oh, there it is. Okay. I have a question in the chat from my colleague who has never actually had an octopus ink at him. And the reason for that is kind of individualistic. So like I said, there's different kind of defense strategies that they have. Ink is very expensive for them. It's a very tiny organ that makes incredibly dense ink, and then when they just need to squirt out a little bit and it just expands in the water. It just makes a humongous kind of cloud. But manufacturing that, like the physiological process of that organ making that ink, it's pretty energetically expensive. So that can be kind of a last resort. Some of my octopuses ink me like every time I try and work with them. Some of them have never inked me before. It's just individualistic. Like I have some very friendly octopuses that I've worked with, and I have some that are just like, stay away from me, just give me the shrimp and leave me alone. And it's like people, right? They're intelligent animals, and so there's going to be a variety of personalities that you'll see. So trigger warning, just because it can be a little bit violent. I have some footage of octopuses getting attacked by different predators. So if you're sensitive to that, you can look away, tip your screen away. I'll keep talking, and I'll let you know when it's safe, because there's only a few slides like that. All right. So this is what it looks like. This is my test arena for this chapter when I put an octopus in a tank with an eel. Eels kind of just sit like that, right? Like they just kind of go, like they told a bad joke and they're waiting for you to laugh. That's pretty true. They kind of just sit there like that. And the octopus is actually doing a pretty good job of trying to blend and hide in the corner. But the reason why they just kind of have this open arena is because octopuses are good hiders and they're good escapers. If it inks, it will fill this whole tank, and I've had it happen several times. If they ink, it will blow up that whole tank, and it will just be dark for like 20 minutes while the water kind of clears back out. So that ink is really effective. But the point is, what I need to know what happens when an octopus gets cornered, and it's really hard to see if it's hiding under a rock or behind a thing. So I've kind of determined the minimum number, or the minimum number of animals that I need. I'm not just doing this willy-nilly. I'm really trying to have just the minimum number that will definitely tell me statistically what's going on. So I'm testing about 40 octopuses in this way.
Hey, Kelley.
Yes.
Quick question. Does the ink dissolve?
It doesn't dissolve, but it dissipates.
Okay.
So with more water, like say that octopus inks and fills the tank with water, or fills the tank with ink, and it kind of expands and blows up. The more fresh water you introduce, and it'll kind of dump the old stuff out. And like that happened in Alaska too, when we had a closed system. If an octopus inked, we'd have to like bail all the water out and keep bailing until it was a certain kind of like, until you could kind of see through it, and then we could trust that the system would clean the rest of it out. But yeah, it doesn't go away for a while. It just kind of, since it's an aquatic environment, it just kind of disappears. But like, I have also been inked by octopuses out of the water multiple times for good reason. I deserved it. But I've had like my shirt, I've ruined shirts that have just like a big streak of octopus ink. Like I have a science hat that has like, I put a handprint after it inked all over my hand. Like I've got a souvenir of that. So yeah, the ink takes a very long time to go away. It is a pigment, like it's used in art all over the world. So yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
All right. So what I am looking for when I'm looking for um, defense behaviors, these are a couple of GIFs that have a couple of different encounters with different predators. So this is a Bimaculatus fighting off, that's a sarcastic fringe head. So you can kind of see its mouth. That's the one that kind of, its mouth gets really big and it goes, ah! And they're basically fighting over this den space. There's a little hole right here that they both want to sit in, and that's what they're doing. Meanwhile, below, this is the kind of interaction that I'm actually studying for my dissertation, which is a California moray coming out of nowhere and trying to grab an octopus. And you can see that it takes a lot of effort to disorient this octopus. The moray has to bite and spin and spin and spin and spin and spin very fast. It takes a lot of force to pull that arm off, but also they have to pull multiple arms off to kind of disarm the octopus. They have to disorient it enough to eat the rest of it. There's some accounts of that in like books from the 50s, but again, no one has properly studied it. So, and yet we find octopus arms and whole octopuses in moray guts all the time. That's what my lab studies, is California morays. I joined on as the person who studies the thing they eat. So this is like, we commonly see the result, but we don't quite know how it happens in kind of a systematic way. So that is what I'm doing. And what I'm looking for is how long it takes the octopus to move. So that's called latency time. I'm looking to see how long it takes, how long it spends moving around the tank. Kind of, they'll kind of like dance with each other and kind of swim to opposite ends. Sometimes the octopus will stay really still and the moray will swim up and boop it. And it's like, no, I'm a rock. And the moray's like, oh, you're a rock, and swims away. A variety of behavioral strategies. When it actually is like starting to defend itself and try and push or slap that moray away, I want to know what arms it's using, because again, like I saw earlier, there are some arms that are injured more than others. So I'm wondering if maybe they're hiding that third right arm, they're curling it up and protecting it and kind of pushing off with the opposite arm, not the bilaterally opposite, but the radially opposite arm, the kind of like, if it's like a snowflake or a circle, that's across the circle. And so I'll show you a picture of what I'm talking about. But I'm trying to see if there are different arms that, or if they're choosing particular arms as kind of decoys. I want to know what they're doing with their arms. Again, I've mentioned punches and slaps and pushes and grabs. We know that they can do all of these behaviors, but again, never been really quantified well. And finally, when the arm is lost, I want to know if it's an amputation, so like the moray biting the arm off, or if it's autotomy. So you might be more familiar with autotomy in lizard tails. So when a lizard drops its tail and the tail starts wiggling around as a distraction, and then the rest of the lizard runs away. There are octopuses that do that too, and technically all octopuses can, but some employ it much more than others. So I'm interested to see if that is possibly happening, if they're able to shed that arm instead of having it, if they have enough time to, or if it's just getting bitten off before they can choose to drop it themselves. All right. So what I have seen so far, lots of ink. So risking an arm is probably energetically expensive. It takes a lot less energy to regrow ink, like to regenerate ink, than it does to regrow a limb. So I've seen lots of ink so far. I've done about half of this field work. I was supposed to do it last summer, thanks COVID. But I'm gonna get back out this summer and finish all of this up. I anticipate seeing more inking. But this is the thing, it's a little blurry because I was trying to like not distract the animals while this trial was running, but I was really excited to see that this arm is arm L2, so that opposite arm from its reproductive special arm. It was reaching that arm out and kind of waving it around at this moray that is swimming up to it with an open mouth. So I've seen a couple of instances of that, and I'm curious if I can find more instances of that this summer to see if octopuses are using that arm as an actual decoy and choosing to dispatch one arm in order to get away and live another day. And what's interesting about that is the arm, you know how I said like it's a brain with lots of tongue, brains, and they do all this stuff. Well, a lot of the octopus's neurons are distributed out into their arms, so they have a lot of brain cells in their arms, and those arms actually like are programmed with some basic behavior. So once the arm is separated from the body, it's not just like wiggling like a lizard tail. It'll actually like if it's searching for food, if you hand it food, it will try and pass that food to a mouth that is no longer there. It will wrap itself around the nose, the rostrum of that eel, just round and round and round and round, and try and hold that mouth closed. It'll grab its eye. It just grabs and grabs and grabs onto the inside of the mouth, inside of the throat of the eel. It's very distracting, very upsetting for the predator. And so you can imagine it's even more distracting than just like a wiggly tail. And so the rest of the octopus can get away while this one arm is just going berserk. So I haven't actually seen, what another interesting thing is, I haven't actually seen an arm get pulled off in any of my trials. I will show you the gnarliest thing I've seen so far, and it could still happen, but for the most part, this is the gnarliest scene. So the octopus or the moray is just swimming up and slowly, quickly bites and tries to spin. And you can see that it kind of ripped the skin here, but it didn't actually pull the whole arm off. I'll show you again. And what's interesting is it tried it. It has to go really slowly and then very fast. That's at full speed. That's not sped up. And it tries, and then it immediately swims away like really fast because it knows that if it can't get a good grip and it can't do the spin, it's probably not going to win. That octopus will grab back, and there are accounts of octopuses eating small morays too. So it's kind of a dangerous attempt to bite like that. All right, so that is the last of the gory stuff, if anyone was concerned with that and wants to come back. So thank you for hanging in there. So the preliminary results of this, I'm seeing, there's two graphs on the right here. This top graph is talking about the number of times a particular arm was used. So you can see the A's mean anterior, so kind of front arms, and the P's mean posterior, so kind of back arms. The blue is female and kind of the green is male. And so, and then like they're kind of stacked so you can kind of see the total number. And you'll see that the front arms on both sides were used much more times than the back arms in all of these encounters. The bottom graph is the number of times different behaviors happened. So there's lots of grabbing onto the moray. There's lots of grabbing onto glass. This behavior right here is what interests me, extending an arm toward the moray. Let's see. Yes, I said they used front arms more than back arms. Males were extending their arms more toward the morays than females. And I'm hoping to get more instances of that to kind of confirm my suspicions that they're having a decoy that's as far away from their hectocotylized arm as possible. Like they can regrow that specialized arm, and they can actually, it actually grows back faster than the other arms because they need it. If they don't have that arm ready when they're ready to reproduce, they're done. They only live a year and they only really have one reproductive season. So it's really important to have that arm intact. So it seems like behaviorally, they're doing something else to protect that arm. So far, I haven't found any correlation with body size and changes in behavior. Like, I haven't seen them like learn, or like no evidence of learning, or of like maybe being more aggressive because they're bigger and can take it. But I only have 24 animals so far, so a little over half. I'm hoping to clear those numbers up a little bit more with more observations in July this summer. So it may not change with age, but watch this space. It might. So what is next? What am I working on right now? So finishing up my field work this summer. I've been planning all kinds of stuff. I have a new intern who is actually from UC Santa Cruz. I'm really excited to work with her. I've been waiting for a long time. So there's that. And then I also have little cuties that live in my lab. And I'm studying how they compensate when they lose an arm. So again, arm loss, incredibly common. 2/3 of them that I've ever found have some sort of arm injury, arm loss, previous arm loss. So since this is so common, I want to know how they're actually compensating for that, because like if they're losing that arm that they commonly use as a decoy, like so I'm amputating arm L2, and then seeing how the other arms behave in a couple of different contexts. So I'm letting them explore kind of a new tank that's different than where they normally live. And I'm offering them food if they want to pick it up and manipulate that, see how that might change. And then I'm also going to do a video playback. So I'm not putting them in a tank with a moray, but I'm going to make them think that they are briefly. Show them a video of a moray that's kind of like swimming up at them and trying to like investigate and attack and see what it is they do. So too early to tell. I've only got 4 animals and I'm gonna have 20 by the end of it. So like it's really early days, but that is something I'm working on. And man, I can't wait to actually like share these octopuses, like show people my octopuses, because the lab has been closed for last year. So I haven't been able to show them off, I guess. It's always fun to have live animals in the lab. So yeah, and I'm excited for things to open back up, wear your masks, get your shots, so I can show off my animals. So just to sum up what you've learned today, hopefully you learned something. Octopuses have a lot of different ways to protect themselves. They have like physical capabilities. They can change their skin color and texture. They can produce ink and they can swim away really quickly. They can squeeze into just impossibly small holes. They can even bite. I've been bitten. Someone in this room has seen me get bitten by an octopus before. It wasn't so bad. But they have a variety of different behaviors and like physical capabilities that they use in different combinations to get away, because I mean they're not hard, they're very soft and squishy, so it's hard to protect yourself from being bitten in that way. As a last resort, I'm thinking they're maybe offering an arm just as a sacrifice, because they'd rather regrow that arm and use their other arms to compensate. But that is something that I'm still working on. But fortunately, those arms do regrow. It looks very silly while they regrow, but they do. But yeah, again, we have a lot more to learn about this. Normally, the field so far, when we talk about arm loss, we're just like, oh yeah, like this is how I identify because that one's missing that particular arm. Or oh, if they're missing arms, they're not as good at mating, or they're not as successful at mating because females want males with more arms, more intact arms. But we don't really go into the nitty-gritty of that arm loss. And there's some evidence that there's evidence that octopus skin can kind of detect light. It can kind of see rudimentary light and color, which is why they can blend into their environment so quickly and so well. Those opsins in their arms help. But there might be some evidence that that seeing ability is really concentrated in the tips. So if they're losing an arm, like the kind of little end of their arm, maybe their arm doesn't see as well. So there's a lot of different implications for different measures of arm loss. And that's what really fascinates me, is like, how can we look at this and how can we apply this to better understand an octopus's place in marine communities? So we're going to open this up. I'll open this up to questions, but I can't leave without thanking the village of people that have supported my work. I've really dedicated committee members, a lot of funding sources, big and small. I've worked in 3 different museum collections, and I've been going to the USC Wrigley Institute since I was an undergrad in 2012. So this is my 10-year anniversary. Oh my goodness. The staff there is fantastic, and I hope you all get to visit someday because it's a wonderful place full of wonderful people. Maurice Roper is their kind of resident photographer who took all of these beautiful underwater photos of my fieldwork, which I really appreciate. And of course, I can't not thank the animals who have provided me with all of this information. So if you don't want to ask me a question, but you want to kind of passively learn more about me, I am vain and do have kelleyvoss.com. If you want to talk now, I'm really happy to talk now. But thank you for listening to me ramble about my favorite animal.
Amazing job, Kelley. That was awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Kelley? You're welcome to put it in the chat and I can read it. Or if you want to unmute yourself, please go for it. I think Nasreen raised her hand.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, Kelley. This was such a great talk. It was so like interesting and funny and just all around lovely. So I had a question about, so I think you kind of like sort of addressed it, but when you were saying like you were considering like doing the thing with the videos of the predators. So I was wondering if there are ways other than like putting them in a tank with like an actual predator
Sure.
like to like have that same sort of response with like less, I guess, risk of death or so.
Yeah. So when like I've done that before. So my master's degree, I did an entirely video playback study. I gave them I let them look at a crab and like a small giant Pacific octopus and then like a large giant Pacific octopus. And then I would, at the end of the day, so I was trying to do it as little as possible, but just to get their reaction to a stellar sea lion. So video playback is actually a really good technique for reducing risk and harm if you're looking at kind of these defensive behaviors. The live stuff is kind of necessary because I'm interested specifically in like the arm use and the arm loss, and that's kind of, they can't lose an arm if they're not actually interacting with a predator generally. So that's why that's the only study I've ever done this with, and that's the only study I'm going to do this with. I just want to see just a very small number and see how they are losing how they're actually losing their arm, because no one's ever described it, and it's very hard to see, like go out and see it, because morays specifically hunt at nighttime, so you'd have to like go out with a flashlight and like try and find it, and that might not be the most accurate behavior because you're like bothering them while they're doing it. So to try and keep it really like controlled and only a few times, like only have it happen just minimum amount of times, I'm doing that like live. But again, with the playback study, like my study number 4, the compensation stuff, I don't really care about how they're losing their arm. I care about what they're doing now that they've lost an arm. Like, is it any different? And again, like I can't study that if they're dead. if they died
Right.
after the first interaction. So the playback study also helps when you're trying to like look at behavior toward predators over time.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Nasreen. Okay, I'm seeing in the chat. If I could ask octopuses one question, what would it be? Oh, Jenny. I would, oh gosh. Um, I'm gonna have to come back to that because like I have like a million. I'd ask them all the things. Really, it's just like, what are you doing? Why are you like that? Like, how old are you? Actually, maybe you know what? How old are you? How old are you would be a fantastic question because octopuses don't have a really good in fish. It's called a von Bertalanffy curve. If you can measure, you can tell how old a fish is by about how long it is. But in octopuses, they just grow super fast. Like they all start out teeny, teeny, tiny. Like the biggest octopuses, giant Pacific octopuses, start out like pea-sized and then turn into like a 200-pound monster, or they can. But it totally depends on how much food is available for them. So I can't tell when I pick up an octopus if that's 3 months old or if it's a year old. I don't actually know because there is no way of telling how old it could possibly be unless I euthanized it and took out its little tiny, it's called a statolith. They have little tiny kind of grain of hard stuff that rolls around in a little pit that kind of helps them balance in the water and kind of maintain orientation. It's kind of like our ear bones. And those kind of develop layers like a tree ring. So you can age them. You can also age them with like lines, like they grow their beaks, so you can kind of see on their beaks. But like you can't age an octopus if it's alive. So I'd probably ask, how old are you? Ha. Are there differences in arm loss for octopuses in other oceans? So I only study northeast Pacific octopuses, so all the stuff that ranges from Alaska down through Mexico and kind of down to Panama almost. But I can say that the octopuses in the Indo-Pacific, the Abdopus species, they are the ones that like really regularly drop their arms. So the ones that are big autotomizers, big arm droppers, those ones are kind of in the Indo-Pacific, but I'm not totally sure because again, arm loss is really poorly studied. There's just like accounts of it like, oh yeah, this one was missing 3 arms, but it's not a really well-studied field. So I've only seen the last third. I'm seeing a question about what do I think about my octopus teacher. I've only seen the last third of it because there is a scene where like it's getting attacked and its arm gets bitten off. That's interesting to me because it's me. But I don't know. All I have to say, like I don't feel like I can comment without having seen the whole thing yet. I've just been really busy this year, but I will say I'm the only one who's allowed to cry about octopuses. Only me. He's not allowed to cry about octopuses. I'm allowed to cry. I've been studying them for way longer than he did. So that's just my thought on that. But it's beautiful cinematography. Like it's really cool that he's caught all of these behaviors in such beautiful definition that most people don't have access to. So it's a cool thing that it's cool to watch and cool to see some really natural, interesting behavior. Do my octopuses have a dominant arm or side? So there are 2 whole studies in the whole world that have ever been done on, it's called handedness. So like I'm right-handed, other people are left-handed, some people are ambidextrous. Only 2 different species, or only 2 studies have addressed handedness, as far as I know, and only one of them, or it's only in one species, and it's Octopus vulgaris, which lives in like the Mediterranean Sea. And so there's some evidence of that, but I haven't personally seen it in my octopuses. They're more like using their front arms in general. Although I will say that decoy behavior is always on the left. And I'm seeing in the chat, Andrew has cried at my octopus teacher. Andrew, you're allowed to. You also research octopuses. From Elsie, am I interested in seeing how effective mimicking a sea snake is? Elsie studies snakes. This is why this question is being asked. So it would be really cool to see, but my octopuses don't mimic. The wonderpuss and mimic octopus are related. They're related to the ones that drop all their arms. There's lots of really neat arm stuff happening in the Indo-Pacific, so like the other side of the Pacific Ocean. But I do think it would be really interesting to go down and like watch and see how effective it actually is. Like maybe the ones that can mimic a sea snake take longer to be attacked, or maybe they don't get attacked at all, or they're attacked by fewer predators. So that's a whole dissertation right there. That'd be really cool. Nicholas, are asymmetrical arm behaviors explainable by differences in the arm tissue? So as far as we know, all of the arms except the hectocotylus, or like the specialized male arm, they should all be the same. There's been some histology. So histology means slicing up some tissue very thinly and staining it and looking at it under a microscope. Some histology has been done on octopus arms, but in those ones that autotomize, the ones that drop their arms, to kind of look for an area that is kind of predetermined to drop. So far, we don't know anything about any tissue physiological difference in arms that they might be offering up. I will say that as part of my paper that I published, I calculated how long each arm was at different body sizes. So I looked at, it's called an ontogenetic series. So it means like octopuses at like the min and max and all in between different possible body sizes, so across a range, and measured all of those arms at all of those sizes to see how they were kind of lengthening with respect to the body. And so those arms are growing pretty fast, and L2 tends to be the fastest grower. So I'm wondering if it's also the fastest regrower, but again, that's a whole nother dissertation that I do not have time to do. But yeah, like there's maybe not a tissue difference, but I think there's an energetic partitioning. So like there's a different amounts of energy are maybe being put into growing different arms. So like that specialized reproductive arm definitely grows the fastest and regrows the fastest. That's been studied before, but no one's ever really cared about the other arms because they're all the same. But maybe they're not all the same, and that's what I'm trying to say. So that's that's what I'm working on still.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you were showing your preliminary data, it looked like the females tended to grab onto the mores a lot more than the males. I was wondering if you had an idea for why that happened.
Sorry, there's someone's riding a motorcycle down my street. Sorry. So that one was a little bit skewed by a very grabby female. I had a large female that like wouldn't stop wrestling, but like every time she grabbed him again, that was another number, another count. So that one's a little bit skewed by a very aggressive particular female.
I see. Okay. So she was bigger than them, so she could fight him a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually very worried she was going to eat him because that's a possibility. But the more I survived unscathed, it actually lives in our lab now. His name is Ylvis. He's one of the smallest mories we've ever seen. Or California mories anyway. So it's pretty cool. I'm glad he's safe.
That is a great name for an eel.
Yeah, we've also got Bill Moray, another good one.
Oh man, these puns.
Our lab is intensely punny. Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. Do we have any more questions for Kelley? Okay. Well, Kelley, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad I got to do this. Thank you all to my lab mates and students and friends who have joined. I also see my committee member, Chrissy Hufford. Hi, Chrissy. Thanks for coming. So yeah, again, if you have any other questions, you can find my contact information on my website, kelleyvoss.com. And I'm really happy to chat anytime. Clearly, I don't stop talking ever, so.
This has been great. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.